So this is the Nikon 28 to 70 2.8 lens that I've been using for years and years. It's one of my favorites, but the autofocus stopped working a few months back, so I had to make a decision. It's a gray market lens, so I couldn't bring it to Nikon. They wouldn't repair it, and I had to decide if I wanted to send it to a different repair facility to have it fixed for I'm not sure how much, or did I want to replace it with something else? Well, I decided to replace it. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what I replaced it with and why. Stick around. Before I get started with the review portion of the video, I shot the review of this lens, the Tamron 24 to 70, which is the lens I replaced my old one with a couple of weeks ago, and I bought the lens in February. So when I was putting the video together to put on YouTube, I wanted to put a link in the comments so that you could go look at it. And what I realized is that this lens is slowly disappearing and it's hard to find. So while I really like this lens and everything I say in this video that you're going to hear is absolutely true, it's a great lens, you may have trouble finding it if you go to look for it. So I did a little research on the newer version of it, and it's about $300 more than this one, and it's actually very well reviewed. So having used this one and really like it, I can imagine that the new version of it is even better. So I'm going to put the link to that one in there. Now if you search for this one, you're going to find that it's available through certain retailers on Amazon, sometimes with a USA warranty, sometimes without. I would stay away from gray market copies of this if you can. But this is definitely a great lens if you can find it. The G2 version is brand new. It's readily available. It's, I want to say, around $1,100 and would be an awesome lens to add to your kit if you're looking for a 24 to 70 with compensation in it. Okay, so here's the review that I actually recorded about this lens last week, and there's some general information about camera lenses and some other stuff. So even though the lens may not be available, I still think it might be worth watching. Okay, let's get into the video. So this is what I ended up getting. This is a Tamron 24 to 70 2.8 with image stabilization. Now, I could have went with the Nikon version of this, which was about $2,400, and this is actually the older generation of this lens. Tamron just came out with the G2 version of this, which is I think it's about $1,100, $1,200, something like that for this lens. I actually bought this brand new for $7.99, and I've been using it for the last few months. And now, while $7.99 is expensive for a lens, I mean, it's expensive. This lens right here that I borrowed from my friend to try out is the Nikon 24 to 70 without image stabilization. It's about 5 years old, and this lens retailed for about, I think when he got it, about $1,800 or $1,900. So when you look at a direct comparison, the Tamron's a little bit smaller, but as far as image quality, I took some shots of these in my kitchen. I took a camera that I have, like this right here. It's just a fun little thing I have laying around the house, and I took some shots of it. So as you can see, when you look at the Tamron, it's a nice sharp image, and here is the Nikon version of the same image. And then I also took some images with my 28 to 70, which is the lens that the autofocus doesn't work on. So now I'm going to keep this lens because when I shoot fireworks, or if I'm shooting landscapes or anything where I can manually focus, there's nothing wrong with this lens. It's perfectly fine, it's sharp, there's nothing wrong with it. And when you look at the three images, you almost can't tell the difference. And that was something I wanted to talk about today for a second. You know, a lot of times when you see reviews for different gear online, and somebody will say, is this version better than this version and the new version, and they crop in at 100%, and you look at every pixel in every corner. But I guarantee you, if I took the same picture with this lens and didn't tell you which one was which, you're not going to know. So, and that's not to say that you maybe don't want the expensive lens. If you are using this professionally and you want something that's a little sturdier, maybe a little more reliable, then this might be a better choice for you. Or if you can afford it and you just want it, then that's fine too. But, you know, if you're upset that you can't afford a lens like this and you have to settle for something like this, really it doesn't matter. You're not going to know the difference. It autofocuses well. The vibration compensation is actually excellent in this. And my 70-200 Tamron it's called VC on the Tamrons, and in that lens it's fantastic. So I knew I was going to get good vibration compensation with this lens, and it doesn't disappoint. I recently took it on a cruise. I went in back in February. I went on a cruise with my family, and I brought this lens with me, and you know, I just took all sorts of different shots with it. I took nighttime images. I did some, you know, family shots. I took some pictures when it was like the sail away party. I had it on the camera the whole trip, and I was just taking pictures in different ports all over the place. And I have to say, I was thrilled with the performance of this lens, and especially in low light situations when you're inside basically an inside environment where we were, you know, at night on the ship. The vibration compensation worked great, and I was able to get shots that I would not have been able to get if I had my old lens, or even if I, let's say, wanted to borrow my friend's without the vibration compensation. I would have had to crank my ISO up, and I wouldn't have gotten as good of a shot. So that's something to think about also. So when you're out there shopping for gear, we all have a habit of wanting the best of everything, and you know, I need this, I need that. But in reality, when you're actually looking at the images, and when you're looking at our images, for example, on our Facebook page or on Instagram page, this little lens right here is a few $100s. It's a 30mm Nikon lens, and this has 30mm in it also. If I took the same picture at 30mm with everything being the same, the images are going to look identical. So what's the point? Sometimes it's not about the gear. If you're new to photography and this is the lens you can afford, or this is the lens you can afford, I think it's far more important to actually learn about your camera and how to use it than having the best camera and the best lenses. It's about, you know, understanding all the terms in photography, and you know, how to do something, you know, and when you're in a situation, being able to quickly make adjustments and knowing what you want to do. And while all of this gear will help you, you know, make your vision come to life, more often than not, you know, you can make something happen no matter what you have on your camera. We're not always in the perfect situation with every lens that we own. Sometimes you have to think on your feet and, you know, maybe try something a little differently, or make the best of the situation because you only have this in your bag, or this is what's on your camera that day, or you don't have the focal length that you would normally use. And that forces you to think outside the box and get a little creative. But if you're comfortable with your gear and you understand how the camera works, I think that's more important than which one of these you happen to have on the camera. And just as a little bit of a side note, take a look at this picture. Okay, this is when I was taking pictures of the camera. The lens had nothing to do with this. More often than not, it's user error that will, you know, cause an image to not look 100%. So once you get into this level of gear where, you know, it's all professional quality and very good stuff, usually it's the photographer is going to make the mistake, not the camera. So remember that too. Okay, a lot of it has to do with technique and little things you can do to make sure the shot's sharp and things like that. So it's really not about the gear a lot of the time. It's about who's using it too. So I'm going to put a link to this in the description so you can check it out if it's, you know, something you're interested in. Here's my review of it. I like it a lot, and for $700 and change, it's a bargain. the images are just as good as anything I've shot with these Nikon lenses, or any lens that I have, and it's a pretty solid, heavy feeling lens. I would say, it feels as solid as this Nikon to me in my hand. I will say it's a little slower to focus, but the $1,400, I could live with that. If you like what we're doing here on our channel, please subscribe and click the little bell there so you get notifications when every time we upload a new video. We're going to try to do two or three videos a week if we can. We're seeing how this is going to play out, but I'm going to try to do a Lightroom tutorial every Wednesday, and Eric's going to try to do a photography tutorial on Sundays, and then hopefully, we can throw in some other stuff in between. I don't know if it's going to be set in stone that way, but that's what we're thinking at this point. All right, so, follow along and click subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. Thanks.